how embryos can communicate with each other and assist each other. And then just to make it not so much of a mouthful, we decided that we would just call it SEMA for short. And then the whole phenomenon is this idea that these larger groups are able to help each other out. So if you're being stressed out by the teratogen by yourself, you're not really sure how you're supposed to handle it. And so you're unable to handle it. Versus when you're in larger groups of, let's say, like 100, you have others around you that may be able to handle the stressor and can give you these little packets of information like, hey, this is how I handled it, and now you too can survive the stressor. So what we see is that as we increase our cohort size, we see an increase in survival depending on the teratogen that we're using, but also as our group sizes increase, we also see a decrease in the certain types of defects that we know. So this is both increasing survival and decreasing the frequency of defects.
Okay, so I'd like to attempt to explain this extremely elementary. So people have embryos. So embryos are like the seeded babies, single cell babies or extremely small babies. Okay, when you have just one of them and you give it something called a teratogen, which is something that disrupts the development of one of these little guys. So they grow up abnormal. It turns out that when you have multiple embryos next to one another, that if you give it a teratogen, it's more resilient to these perturbations. It's more stable. So it's as if they're communicating somehow, these embryos are communicating and saying, hey, don't mess up your arm like this. Here's how to make a correct arm. Is that approximately correct?
Yeah, that's, I think, how we're envisioning this happening, kind of someone able to take the stressor in and figure out, this is how I'm supposed to develop normally, correctly. And then they're able to pass along these instructive cues to surrounding neighbors so that their surrounding neighbors can survive whatever stressor that's put on them as well.